Good afternoon, and welcome to another haphazard version of Diatribes from the Voice of Doom. Now here's your hackneyed and halcyon host, Voice of Doom. Alright, I'm gonna do a diatribe because things are happening and I may as well comment as best I can. And I've been noticing some stuff, and it's the same old stuff. And I want to talk about the lies and the gaslighting and the absurdities that are being perpetrated by our governing bodies. Now, first of all, it's Thursday, and it is March 13th. Now, tomorrow, I guess what's going to happen is the Senate's going to vote on a continuing resolution to keep the government open because they've reached their ceiling on government debt. Now, I've already gone in detail about how stupid this is, that they keep on voting to raise the debt ceiling by another $2 trillion, and then it reaches that $2 trillion in about 4 months, and then they have to vote again and again and again to keep on raising the debt ceiling in order to pay, as if all the money shuts down immediately if the government reaches their debt ceiling, which, as we know, is an absurd notion because the government will keep on spending whether or not there's a continuing resolution or not. And so we can talk about the duplicity and the impiousity of the D's, saying we should shut down the government to stop this rampant action by Orangey and Elon, his lackey, to cut government waste. And if we do that, then we should shut down the government. Now, that's the D's stance, and that's why they're failing, and that's why they're going down into the abyss. And before I get into my main thesis, I will say that the goppers are in the catbird seat right now because they keep getting things done. And the D's are looking more and more like utter fools and idiots by opposing such measures and by taking the exact opposite stance of Orangey. Orangey wants peace, and the D's say, no, we need war. Orangey says we need to get a handle on inflation, and the D's say no, for whatever reason. But they oppose Orangey at every turn. Now, my hope, if I've looked at history before, is that some parties remain in power for many years before people finally want to make a change. Happened in the 70s and 80s when the D's basically ruled the Congress, and they were always opposing or being somewhat of a blockade to people like Reagan and Bush, and who cares who they are. But they were a formidable opposition. And there's always been this perception by people in the United States that think that the D's are always for the people, the common man, and the goppers are for the rich people, and they only want big business to succeed. As you live on this planet, you realize you want big business to succeed. And to help the common people with governmental edicts only creates more of the poverty that they wanted to eradicate, because you can't get out of poverty until every person on the planet decides to better themselves on a personal level. It's very simple, and yet people can't seem to grasp it. Now, what I'm hoping, this is what I hope for the future, and maybe I won't be here to see it, but I hope Orangey has a very successful 3.5 years left, and he mentors the Veep. And although the Veep may have other ideas of his own, basically, yes, I will carry on the ideals of what has been so successful. Because Orangey's going to be successful. Because that's his thing. He wants to be thought of as a savior, and yes, okay, whatever. Let these people have their narcissistic stances. It can be for the benevolence of the rest of us, or it can be to our detriment. But I'm hoping to see J.D. Vance in office for 8 years, starting in 2028. And then I'd like to see the Secretary of State, and his name is what? Marco Rubio, who's been working his ass off because he's got to be the Secretary of State for Orangey, who's a workaholic. I don't know if he sleeps 4 or 5 or 3 hours a day, but the guy has unlimited energy, and he expects his cabinet to be likewise. So that's good. I endorse that. I don't see how it's happening. I think it's kind of, as Dean Koontz would say, preternatural that all these things are happening. But I'd like to see J.D. Vance in for 8 years. Young guy, vibrant, smart. He's been part of the lower class and middle class and upper whatever. He's lived it all. And then Marco Rubio as the president for 8 years after that. So we're talking about 16 to 20 years of Gopper rule. And I'm not going to say, I love the Goppers and I want to stay in. But these D's have rendered themselves impotent. And even though we've had this same old pattern in this good old US of A of a two-party system where they're both basically on the same level, so we go back and forth, I think people are kind of tired of that. And the D's in their stupidity have, created a point where they may end up being extinct. And I like to see it because the whole D concept is based on duplicity and hatred from year one. And if you want, go back in history and check it out, instead of thinking that these D's are so compassionate for people. They may want to be. Some of them may be good people, but their political ideology was born out of hatred and born out of racism, and they will suffer the slings and arrows of their ways, because cause and effect doesn't necessarily happen immediately. So we know that these are done. More and more the reasonable D's are going, I can't do it anymore. I mean, they don't say it out loud, but you can see it. They can't defend their side because it's like, we're against everything Orangey does, and that's our stance. So if he wants to cure cancer, we don't want it. So they've got themselves in a bad place because Orangey wants to cure cancer. Orangey wants world peace. A ridiculous concept, obviously. I've always been chanting for world peace, and our Buddhist organization wants world peace, but we can't get it when people are knee-jerk reactionaries toward the person who wants to actually make peace happen through negotiation and through deals. And through saying, what can we do to stop the killing? I mean, you guys, I don't know what you're doing that you're even thinking about opposing this. Until Orangey makes a move that says, yeah, you're a dictator and you want to rule the world, then let's just go along with what he wants to do. We want world peace. Now here's where the gaslighting and the lies come in, and where the D's become even more of a greater force of evil than they ever thought they could be. Now, Elon Musk, contrary to the statements of the D's, does not have the power to fire anybody. He does not have the power of the purse. He has nothing except advice. And for people to say Elon Musk is cutting all these jobs, they show that they're just gaslighting us ordinary people who can't keep up with what's going on. Now, Elon Musk says we found billions of dollars that are being paid out to dead people in Social Security. And if we were to curtail those payments, and in my book, in my world, you don't just curtail the payments, you find out who got those payments, and you drag them to the docket. And you put them on trial. You say, wait a minute, you took $500,000 of all these people's Social Security payments, and all these people are dead. Now, you're not going to get away with that. I think they should be punished by life in prison without parole. But let's go on. When Elon says we have cuts, we don't have cuts. We found fraud and abuse and corruption in the Social Security office. The D's say, he's going to cut Social Security. Your grandmother is not going to get her money. And that's not true. If he cuts out the billions of dollars that have been wasted, that means more money for us who legitimately earn Social Security by working 50 plus years in the U.S. labor system, and we paid money for decades in order to get a little something if we actually reach the age of 65. So that's good. And these say, no, he's cutting Social Security and your grandmother and grandfather are going to be left out in the cold. Well, they're going to be out in the cold even if they get Social Security, because if that's all they got, they're in trouble. I'll explain more about that later. But the gaslighting of saying he's going to cut this, he's going to cut that, and your grandmother. Now, if Social Security ends tomorrow, you're going to see old men and old women on the street that make these Xers and Gen Z people that love Hamas because they cut off the heads of Jewish children. You're going to see some real violence because these people really kind of need the money. And if suddenly they say, sorry, your Social Security is gone, then this whole country will burn down. And it'll be burned down by old ladies in wheelchairs. They will carry fire, flamethrowers, and they'll blow away all these other people. All these Xers and Zers will be standing in the street singing "We Will Overcome," and the old ladies will come along in their wheelchairs and burn them. They will incinerate them if you stop Social Security, because we paid into that and we deserve it, because, it's not free money. I paid into that damn shit. And everybody else did. And the stipend we get is not sufficient, but it helps. So there's going to be, and I've already said it years ago, generational wars, and the old ladies are going to win. And I could go on and on. I had a lot to say, but just wanted to get in a quick diatribe about the lies and how these D's have nothing to stand on, and they're at 21% approval rating now, and they're going to go down because all they can do is rail against everything and then gaslight us into thinking the coppers want to take our Social Security in so that Elon Musk can have more money. Elon Musk that has $400 billion and needs more money and wants to take it out of the hides of the old ladies and the old men that can barely make it on what they have. And I don't believe that. And if it turns out that I'm wrong, then I will say I'm wrong. But I will go on with this for a while because I can do more diatribes. I don't have to end this channel. Even if I have one stalwart fan, I can keep on expounding my ridiculous thoughts. But I don't think these D's are going to last. I think they're going to go into the waste bin, the dustbin of history. And it's absurd. We've always had two parties, and they're, equal. No. The D's blew it. They've relegated themselves into obscurity by their ridiculous antics, not trying to help. That's the problem with politics now, is one side wants to sabotage the other. What kind of a government is that? It's one thing to have reasonable debate, but it's another thing where it's, I don't want you to succeed. I don't care what the hell you want. And that's just not going to hold anymore. I can tell, because people are getting more and more up on what's going on. And I will say it as a coda. I don't have much to say about it, but I guess there was a big riot or a big demonstration in Trump Towers because of this guy who incites violence and he incites sedition on the school campuses, and he's not a U.S. citizen, so get rid of him. And that's what they're going to do, and now people are on the street saying, okay, freedom of speech. I've already talked about that. And I don't understand why the government doesn't release all the whatever they do with their smartphones, the videos of the atrocities that happened in the kibbutzes in Israel. And if people saw it, I think they would have a different opinion. If kids' heads were being cut off, and if parents were being burned, and whatever atrocities that they've been talking about actually happened, then show it. Show it unedited. Oh, we can't show that because it's fun. No, come on. I already told you. The way to make an impression is to show the bodies. Show the atrocities. Live. And these idiot, moron students who don't know anything who, as they matriculate into adulthood, will be of no use to us because they can't make chips. They don't know anything about that. Let them see the beheading. Let them see the burning of that day when Hamas flew into a, rock concert and decided to start beheading people. I'd say show it big time in living color, unedited, what these Hamas people, or whatever they are, did. And then if they still want to be on their side, well, then we know exactly where they stand. And I would think that the best thing to do would be to have them eradicated. I don't care how, because they're demons. So I'll leave it there. I could say more, and I had a lot more to say, but I just wanted to get this in and take it for what it's worth. I'll talk about more of it later. Thanks, everybody, and have a good day.